Well, good evening, cows and sheep. It's about 5 p.m. here on Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. And we got a little more than half an inch of rain, almost 2/3 of an inch of rain. And it is about 62 degrees, 63 degrees. It's warm, humid. The grass here is growing. I see some areas where there's a lot of grass. Look at that. Yeah. Anyway, I fed them 75 pounds of feed in 3 feed troughs. I was calculating how many sheep and cows I can support if I had the ideal number. And I'd probably go with, 50% sheep, 25% or 50% cows. Maybe even more sheep than cows. Not in terms of number, but in terms of animal units, or I don't know what it's called. But there's a certain amount of animals that you can grow forage for on an acre of land. And in my area, each cow-calf pair requires about 2 acres of land. So I have access to 80 acres, so I should be able to do 40 cow-calf pairs if it wasn't for this darn drought. This guy's all dirty. Sheep are roughly about 8 sheep for 1 cow is what I understand. Some people say it's lower, it's closer to 5 or 7 or 6 or not, something like that. But if I were to have 20 cows, keep their calves until the next calves are born, and then sell them or feed them, and then feed them and then sell them, like at a year or something like that. And so that's 20 cows, 20 calves. I'd probably keep 2 or 3 of the best heifers back and then let the 2 or 3 worst cows go each year. By let it go, I mean sell it to the auction house. Or if somebody wants to buy them, sell them private sale, but with the understanding these are not my favorite cows. So 20 cows, and then that's probably like 160 sheep. So this is about as many cows as I'm ever going to have on this property according to that math. So from here on out, I have to be picky about who gets to stay and who has to go. Hopefully there's a chance that I get, well, there's a 50% chance I get 2. Okay, there's a good chance I'll get 4 lambs. If I get 4 lambs, there's a 50% chance 2 of them are ewes. There's a 3/16 chance that I have 3 ewe lambs, and there's a 1 in 16 chance all 4 are ewe lambs. Of course, there's a chance that I only get 3 or 2, But I can buy rams all day long. They're pretty available. They're easy to find. It's the ewes that are hard, that people want to keep the ewes and grow their flocks right now, especially coming out of a drought. It's a little easier to find them when there was a drought. That's why I was able to get these ewes. I was talking with the guy, and he just said that he calculates that he has too many ewes. He has to get rid of a few. So he gave me some of his ewes, which aren't the best ewes in his flock, but they carry the genes, the same genes somewhere in there, hopefully. So hopefully I can breed out the bad traits, keep the good traits, or maybe one year I'll be able to buy ewes. Somebody will have them for sale. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about animal units and how many animals I can support on this land. Now, obviously, I wish, look at all these clovers. I wish that a miracle happens and that by rotationally grazing, I can get even more animals per acre. But I think I'm not going to do much better than Greg Judy has done yet. And I think he has about 1,000 acre, and he runs about 300 cows. So he could probably run more if he wanted to, but he likes to hold back a little bit. I should do the same. I shouldn't try to push him too hard. So, and of course I need to find cows that agree with my methods and my land. So that's going to be a process of aggressively culling the herd and finding good breed stock to breed with. The other goal that I have and this is kind of a wrench in the works. These guys are hungry, hungry, hungry. The other goal that I have is to develop steer that are worth eating, that I can sell privately and that I could eat myself. And how much am I willing to sacrifice of rotational grazing to get that? I think I'm going to have to feed the steer if I'm going to raise the steer to weight. And that means that either I do like what I'm doing, I just have feed troughs and I feed them and move them and feed them and move them, which could work. I think that could work. I'm just, right now, I'm not really geared up to do a lot of feed. At some point I'll have to get like a, what do they call it, a bin. And then there's some way to either fill up the buckets, or I have the side-by-side that's ready to load up with feed and go dump it in the troughs. Something like that. I have to figure out. Maybe I have the steers come back to home base all the time. Like I always have the feed out there, and then I set up pasture where they can graze near home base. And the cows, I graze further away from home base. That way I don't have to move the feed so far. But something like that. I have to figure out some way to feed them. I don't think I'm going to be able to do grass-fed. I'll do experiments to see if it works on my land, but here's a lot more clover. Look at those clover. Yeah. Clover gives me hope. If clover's in the pasture, that means my soil's not too acidic. And that means that there's nitrogen being added to the soil naturally. And that's a good sign. I was thinking I have some wheat that I've had in storage for a long time, some hard red winter wheat, which is not the best wheat for eating, but it is pretty good wheat for storing. And it's kind of like a backup, you know, survival thing. And we have a grinder that uses stones to grind it, so that makes pretty decent bread. It'll give you gas. If you're not used to eating, it'll give you gas. But it's decent bread and it's filling. I was thinking of taking some of that stored wheat and just throwing it in the field, probably where I raise the chickens. That's probably where there's a lot of nitrogen. And if I were to do that, I'd probably have to find a week when it's not going to rain, because I don't want the seed to wash away before it sprouts. I probably should have done that back in October. But anyway, the idea is that we just throw seed on the ground. We don't do anything special. We don't prepare the soil. We don't fertilize. We don't do any, what is it called? Culturing of the soil, where you go through and cut down the weeds. We just see what happens if we just throw it. Because wheat is something the cows can eat, right? So worst case scenario, the cows eat it. Well, worst case, it just dies. It doesn't grow. That's pretty bad. Oh well, you know, it's not that much of expense lost, and I need to rotate the supply anyway. Next best would be it grows, the cows eat it. Oh no. You know, the cows are converting the seed wheat into taking the sunlight and the rain and turning it into food and nutrients. And the best case is that I'm able to keep the cows out of there and actually grow a wheat crop and then harvest that whenever wheat's done around here. I imagine in the summer sometime it's probably done. I don't know. And we'll do barley, oats, I think is another one that might. I told my wife, I said, maybe we can do rice. You know, she's like, no, you can't do rice. She grew up in Korea. She knows how to raise rice. That's what her dad used to do. But in order to do rice, you need water in the summer. You need a stream, because you need to flood your field at a certain stage of the growth. And ducks are a good compatible species with the rice, because they like to eat the bugs that affect the rice a little bit. And so you put the ducks out in the rice paddy. Rice is cool because you get a lot of product for the amount of work you put into it. It does require more work than the other crops, obviously. And then once you get the rice, what do you do with it? Well, you got to machine it, you got to process it, and that's not something that people do on a small scale here in America. I saw a guy that did it, and he had to basically order all of his machines from Japan. You know, he had to import them all. In Japan, they do small-scale rice operations. I'm pretty sure they do it in Korea too. Not in America though, so there's no, like, John Deere doesn't supply rice processing equipment, you know. Anyway, the idea is just to see what happens if we put, you know, some simple crops simple grains in the field. Grains that the cows can't eat, the chickens can't eat. Grains that, you know, if we do get to a point where we can harvest it, that would be nice. Flax. Another thing I want to try is flax. I don't know. I'm a pretty crazy guy. Anyway, just some experiments to see what happens. Especially in that part where the chickens were, where all that manure is. I imagine there's some pretty good nutrients down there. So, anyway, it's at that point of the day where I can barely see. But the camera's picking up a lot more light than my eyes are. So to you, it looks like a dark day. To me, it's like it's getting dark and I have to go finish the rest of the chores. Anyway, guys, have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.